The enemy unleashed a virus to kill us, but we transformed it into a cure, Kate. Murphy pressed her hand against the cold glass of the observation window. On the other side, 27 patients lay in hospital beds. Some were awake and in pain. Others were so still they barely seemed alive. All of them had the same illness, what people now called the alien plague. 6 months ago, the Arcturus aliens had appeared in Earth's skies. Their huge ships hovered over major cities around the world. At first they seemed friendly. They had amazing technology that humans could only dream about. They offered to share some of it in exchange for water, certain metals, and permission to study Earth's plants and animals. World leaders had agreed. What choice did they have? The aliens could have taken what they wanted by force. Their weapons made human armies look like children with toys. For months, things seemed fine. The Arcturus delegates met with scientists, doctors, and government officials. They shared some basic medical knowledge that helped cure several rare diseases. People began to relax around the tall, gray-skinned visitors with their four-fingered hands and large black eyes. Then 3 weeks ago, the first cases appeared. A bus driver in London, a teacher in Tokyo, a shop owner in New York, all with the same symptoms: high fever, terrible headaches, confusion, then problems with movement and speech. By the time Kate's team figured out what was happening, thousands were sick. Any changes in their condition? Greg Patterson asked as he walked into the lab. His uniform showed he hadn't slept much either. Kate turned away from the window with a tired sigh. Nothing good. But I found something strange in the virus structure. It's not just killing cells, it's changing them. Greg came closer. Changing them how? It's altering DNA, making human cells different. Kate pointed to images on her computer screen. See these patterns? The virus is trying to rewrite our genetic code. But why? To what end? Greg asked, his face showing his confusion. Kate took a deep breath. I think it was made for a different species. It's trying to make human DNA match. Something else. The Arcturus? Yes. Kate nodded. I think they designed this virus to turn humans into something like them, or at least into something they can better understand and control. Greg's eyes widened as he understood what she meant. They're trying to convert us? Like some kind of biological colonization? It makes sense, Kate said. Why fight a war if you can just change the enemy into something that's no longer a threat? She pointed to more images on her screen. But here's the interesting part. Some human immune systems are fighting back in unexpected ways. What do you mean? In about 2% of cases, the body doesn't just fight off the virus, it somehow takes the changes and adapts them, turns them around. Greg looked through the glass at the patients. So, some people might survive this? More than survive, Kate said with a small spark of hope in her eyes. They might come out stronger. The door to the lab burst open. A young lab worker named Ryan stood there, breathing hard. Dr. Murphy, patient 4 is awake. His fever is gone and his readings are unlike anything we've seen before. Kate and Greg looked at each other before rushing toward the quarantine ward. Patient 4, Frank Nichols, had been one of the first to get sick. Just yesterday, the doctors thought he wouldn't make it through the night. Now he was sitting up in bed, looking confused but alert. Mr. Nichols, Kate said as she approached his bed in her protective suit. How do you feel? Frank looked at her with clear eyes. Strange, like I'm more awake than I've ever been. He held up his hand, turning it as if seeing it for the first time. Everything looks different, sharper. I can almost see the blood moving under my skin. Kate ran tests while Greg called his superiors. Frank's body had gone through remarkable changes. His heart rate and blood pressure were perfect. His brain activity showed patterns that shouldn't have been possible. And his blood was filled with antibodies that destroyed the alien virus on contact. We need to understand what happened to him, Kate told Greg later as they watched Frank perform simple tests that showed his reflexes were twice as fast as normal. If we can figure out how his body turned the virus around, we might be able to create a treatment. Greg nodded, but His expression was dark. "We need to hurry. The Arcturus have stopped all communication. Our satellites show their ships are changing position. Military analysts think they're preparing for something big." "An invasion?" Kate asked. "Maybe. Now that their virus didn't work as planned, they might try a more direct approach." Kate looked back at Frank, who was now easily solving complex puzzles that the doctors had given him. "Get me more survivors like him. And I need samples from the Arcturus themselves." "Samples from the aliens? How am I supposed to get those?" "I don't care how," Kate said with fire in her eyes. "But if they want to change us, maybe we can find a way to change them instead. Their virus was meant to be our end. Let's make it their beginning." That night, as Kate worked in her lab, military forces around the world went on high alert. The Arcturus ships moved lower in the sky. Smaller vessels began to launch from the motherships. In New York, Paris, Beijing, and a dozen other cities, people looked up with fear as the alien crafts descended. No one knew what would happen next, but everyone could feel it. This was just the beginning of the fight. Kate stared into her microscope at Frank's blood cells attacking the virus. Where others saw only disease and death, she saw possibility. The aliens had tried to use human biology against humanity. Now she would try to use their own weapon against them. She had no way of knowing if it would work. But as the world prepared for war with an enemy from the stars, Kate Murphy prepared for a different kind of battle. One fought with microscopes and test tubes instead of guns and bombs. And somewhere above her, in their massive ships, the Arcturus, watched and waited, unaware that their perfect plan had already begun to unravel. The enemy unleashed a virus to kill us, but we transformed it into a cure. Frank Nichols sat in a cold metal chair in a small room at the CDC headquarters. He had not expected to be alive, let alone feeling better than he ever had before. The last thing he remembered before waking up in the hospital was falling down at work. His body had felt like it was on fire. Now he watched as Kate explained what had happened to him. She moved her hands a lot when she talked, and her eyes showed both worry and hope. "So you're saying I didn't just survive the virus? I changed?" Frank asked. He kept looking at his hands. They looked the same, but they felt different somehow. Stronger. "Yes," Kate said. She pushed a tablet across the table. On the screen were pictures of cells. "These are normal human cells, and these are yours now." The second set of cells looked similar but had small differences in shape and color. "What does this mean?" Frank asked. "It means your body didn't just fight off the virus. It took parts of it and used them." Kate leaned forward. "Your immune system is much stronger now. Your brain is working faster. Your cells can heal damage quickly. Frank, you might be the key to saving everyone else." Frank wasn't the only one who had survived and changed. Across the country, more people like him were being found. But they were rare. Less than 2 in every 100 people who got sick. NASA's Space Defense Command, Lily Martinez, was watching the alien ships. She had dark circles under her eyes from working long hours. The room around her was filled with screens showing the positions of the Arcturus vessels. "They've moved to a lower orbit," she said into her headset. She was talking to military leaders in a secure meeting, and they're sending out smaller ships. "We think they're getting ready for something big." On her screen, General Alan Cooper's tired face looked back at her. "How long do we have before they attack? And please tell me we have some kind of plan." "Doctor, Murphy's team has made a big discovery," Lily said. "They think the virus was made to change human biology into something more like the Arcturus, to make us into hosts they could use or control, but the survivors' bodies have turned that process around." "Turned it around how?" the general asked. "They're making a new virus, one that could hurt the Arcturus instead of us. If we can get it into their ships somehow." "Find a way," General Cooper ordered. "Our calculations show we have less than 2 weeks before they start a full attack." Back at the CDC, Kate was working with Sam Rivera, the lead virus expert on her team. They had been working for 3 days straight with little sleep. The lab around them was full of machines humming and computers showing complex data. "I think it's ready for testing," Sam said as he carefully handled a small tube filled with clear liquid. We combined the antibodies from Frank and the other survivors. If this works like we hope? Kate nodded and followed him to a special sealed room. Inside was a small piece of gray tissue, a sample taken from a crashed Arcturus scout ship. Getting this sample had cost the lives of 3 soldiers, but it might be worth the price if their plan worked. Sam put the sample into a machine and pressed some buttons. They watched through a thick window as their modified virus was sprayed onto the alien tissue. The reaction was fast and dramatic, and the alien cells seemed to bubble and then break apart. "It works," Kate whispered. Her heart was beating fast. "The virus attacks their biology, but not ours." "But how do we deliver it?" Sam asked. "We can't just walk up to their ships and knock on the door." The answer came from Frank and the other survivors. They had started to show another strange ability. They could sense Arcturus technology. Some even said they were getting flashes of the aliens' thoughts or plans. At a military base where the survivors had been taken for protection and study, Frank stood in front of a large map showing where all the alien ships were positioned. They talked to each other using quantum entanglement, he explained to the room full of military people and scientists. That's why we couldn't hear their messages. But now, some of us can feel their network, their shared mind. Lily, who had been sent to help connect NASA and the military, stepped closer to the map. "You can hear what they're saying to each other?" "Not exactly hear," Frank said, trying to find the right words. "More like feel when and where they're active, and we might be able to disrupt them, which could give us a chance to deliver the virus," Greg said, nodding as he understood. "Yes," Frank agreed, "but we need to get close to their main ship, and we need to give them something they want." "What do they want?" asked General Cooper. Frank looked him straight in the eyes. "Us, the survivors. Our changed bodies are interesting to them. We show that their virus worked, but not the way they planned. They want to study us to find out what went wrong." "So, you want us to use you as bait?" Lily asked, sounding upset at the idea. "No," Frank answered. "I want us to be a Trojan horse." 2 days later, a plan was ready. A small team including Frank, Kate, and 5 other survivors would take a small ship up to the edge of space. They would send out signals showing they were humans who had been changed by the virus, exactly what the Arcturus were looking for. "They think they're better than us in every way," Kate told everyone during their final meeting. "That's their weakness. They won't expect us to fight back if they think we're already partly changed to be like them." Their ship was small but had been painted with special materials that made it look like an Arcturus helper ship. Inside was not only the team, but also the weaponized virus, now called Phoenix. The virus was made to spread through the air systems of the alien ships. As they prepared to leave Earth, Kate looked out the window at the blue sky. She didn't know if she would ever see it again, but she knew they had to try this plan. It might be humanity's only chance. "Are you ready?" Greg asked her as the engines started up. Kate nodded, gripping her seat tightly. "No, but let's do it. Anyway." The small ship rose into the sky, heading toward the massive Arcturus mothership that hung like a dark cloud above the Atlantic Ocean. The team was quiet, each person lost in their own thoughts about what would happen next. Whether they would succeed or fail, the next few hours would decide the future of the human race. The enemy unleashed a virus to kill us, but we transformed it into a cure. The small ship moved slowly toward the huge Arcturus mothership. From the pilot's seat, Donna Clark watched as the alien vessel grew larger in the front window. It looked like a giant dark metal cloud with strange lights moving across its surface. "They're scanning us," Donna said. Her hands were steady on the controls even though sweat ran down her face. Kate looked at the screens showing the alien ship. It was at least a mile wide, maybe larger. Their own ship felt tiny in comparison, like a mouse approaching a lion. "Everyone, remember the plan?" Kate said to the team. "We need to act weak and confused when they bring us in. They think we're victims of their virus who have been changed enough to be useful to them. We need to play that part." Frank nodded. He sat with his eyes closed, concentrating on the strange feeling in his mind. Since being changed by the virus, he could sense the Arcturus in a way that was hard to explain. It was like hearing music from far away, or feeling someone watching you. "They're excited," he said softly. "They think we're exactly what they want. Humans, who have been successfully changed by their virus." "Will they separate us when we get there?" asked Eric Watson, another survivor. He was young, maybe 25, and had been a college student before getting sick. "No," Frank said with strange confidence. "I can feel what they're planning. They want to keep us together to compare how each of us changed. They're curious." A blue light suddenly surrounded their ship. Everyone fell silent as they felt themselves being pulled toward the alien vessel. Their engines were no longer controlling their movement. "They've got us in some kind of tractor beam," Donna said, taking her hands off the controls. "We're going in." The team watched as a section of the huge alien ship opened like a mouth, pulling their small craft inside. The hangar they entered was vast and filled with strange shapes that might have been other ships or machines. It was hard to tell. The walls pulsed with a dim blue light. When their ship landed with a soft bump, Kate looked at everyone one last time. "Remember, we only get one chance at this. Play along until we reach the central part of the ship." The door of their craft opened with a hiss. Standing outside were 3 tall Arcturus. They were at least 7 feet tall with gray skin that seemed almost metallic. Their bodies were thin with long arms that ended in 4-fingered hands. Their heads were larger than human heads with huge black eyes that had no visible pupils. Where a human would have a mouth, they had only a small slit. The aliens made no sound as they gestured for the humans to follow them. Kate went first, followed by Frank and the others. Each human carried a small hidden device containing the Phoenix virus designed to be released into the air at the right moment. The halls of the alien ship were wide and tall. The air smelled strange, like ozone and something sweet that none of them could identify. Other Arcturus passed them in the corridors, some turning to watch the humans with those large, expressionless eyes. "They think we're no threat," Frank whispered. "They believe we're already partly under their control because of the virus." The aliens led them to a large circular room with several examination tables. Strange machines hung from the ceiling. The walls were covered with screens showing symbols that constantly changed. One of the Arcturus pointed at the tables, clearly wanting the humans to lie down. Kate hesitated, trying to decide if this was the right time to act. They needed to get deeper into the ship, closer to the air processing system. Frank shook his head slightly at Kate. "Not yet." The humans reluctantly got onto the tables. The aliens moved around them, using devices to scan their bodies. One of them seemed particularly interested in Frank, leaning close to examine his eyes. Kate noticed that the aliens weren't wearing any kind of protective gear. They clearly didn't see the humans as a threat. That would be their mistake. After about 20 minutes, the aliens seemed to finish their initial examination. They made gestures indicating the humans should stand and follow them again. "Where are they taking us?" Eric whispered. "Deeper into the ship," Frank replied. "Toward the central hub. I can feel it. There are more of them there. Important ones." The team was led through more corridors and down a large lift that moved without any feeling of motion. They only knew they were moving because the lights on the wall passed by. Finally, they entered a vast chamber with a ceiling so high it disappeared into shadows. In the center of the room was a structure that looked like a tree made of metal and light. Pulses of energy moved up and down its branches. Around it stood at least 20 Arcturus, taller than the ones who had brought them in. Frank nodded slightly to Kate. This was it. They were in the central hub of the ship. "Now," Kate whispered. In perfect unison, each team member activated their hidden devices. The containers opened silently, releasing the Phoenix virus into the air. It was invisible, spreading quickly through the large room. For a few seconds, nothing happened. The aliens continued to move around, examining displays and apparently discussing, the humans in their silent way. Then one of them stumbled. Then another. Within 30 seconds, all of the Arcturus in the room were showing signs of distress. Their movements became uncoordinated. Several fell to their knees. Alarms began to sound. a high, pulsing tone that hurt the humans' ears. "We need to get to their communication center," Kate said urgently. "We have to make sure every Arcturus ship gets the message." "This way," Frank said, moving with confidence. He seemed to know exactly where to go, guided by his strange connection to the aliens' thoughts. The team ran through corridors now filled with confused and dying Arcturus. The aliens were too sick to stop them. Many were on the floor, their bodies shaking. "Should we help them?" Eric asked as they passed a particularly young-looking alien. "They were trying to convert all of humanity," Greg reminded him. "We don't have time for mercy." Frank led them to a smaller room filled with crystal-like structures that hummed with energy. "This is it," he said. "Their quantum entanglement chamber. They use it to communicate instantly across any distance." Kate pulled out a small device from her pocket. "This contains the formula for the Phoenix virus. If we can broadcast it through their system, every human defense force will know how to make it. And we can tell them how to transmit it directly to the Arcturus ships," Lily added. Frank approached the crystal structures, reaching out with both his hands and his mind. As his fingers touched the glowing surface, his eyes widened. "I can feel all of them," he whispered. "Every ship, every Arcturus mind, they're afraid." With Kate's help, Frank connected her device to the alien system. The crystals pulsed faster, changing from blue to red and back again. "It's working," Frank said. "The message is going out." On Earth, in military bases and research labs, scientists watched as their screens suddenly filled with data, the complete formula for the Phoenix virus and exact instructions on how to deploy it against the remaining Arcturus ships. In orbit, the smaller alien vessels began to show signs of distress. Some drifted out of formation. Others began emergency descent procedures. Back on the mothership, Kate and her team raced back toward their own craft. The Phoenix virus had done its work. The ship was now filled with dead or dying Arcturus. "Will we make it out before this whole thing falls from the sky?" Donna asked as they ran. "We have to," Kate said. "We need to tell the world what happened here." As they reached their small ship, Frank paused and looked back at the alien vessel that had almost been humanity's. "Doom. They thought they were so much better than us," he said quietly. "They never expected us to turn their weapon against them." Kate put her hand on his shoulder. "That's the thing about humans. We adapt. We survive. And sometimes we turn defeat into victory." The team boarded their ship and prepared to return to Earth, where the future of humanity waited to be written. The enemy unleashed a virus to kill us, but we transformed it into a cure. Donna pushed the small ship to its limits as they raced away from the Arcturus mothership. Behind them, the massive alien vessel was starting to show signs of trouble. Strange lights flashed across its surface. Parts of it seemed to be shutting down. "We need to get far enough away before it falls," Greg said, watching the screens that showed the alien ship growing smaller behind them. Kate held tight to her seat as the ship shook. "How long until we reach Earth?" "About 30 minutes at this." "Speed," Donna answered. Her face was tight with concentration. "Assuming nothing follows us." Frank sat with his eyes closed. He was still connected to the Arcturus in some strange way. Most of them on the main ship are already dead or dying. But the ships in orbit around Earth, they're confused. Some are trying to escape. Others are preparing to attack. "Attack?" Lily's eyes widened. "Even after what happened to their mothership?" "They're scared," Frank explained. "And they don't understand what happened yet. They just know their leader suddenly went silent." Greg turned to Kate. "We need to warn Earth Defense Forces. Some of those ships might try a last desperate attack." Fiti nodded and began typing on the ship's communication system. She sent a quick message explaining what had happened and warning about possible attacks from the remaining Arcturus vessels. The small ship continued its descent toward Earth. Through the windows, they could see some of the smaller alien ships. A few were moving erratically, as if whoever was controlling them was sick or dying. Others were moving with purpose toward Earth's surface. "The Phoenix virus is spreading through their fleet," Frank said. "But not fast enough. Some are still healthy." Suddenly, a flash of light lit up the darkness of space behind them. The team turned to see the massive Arcturus mothership breaking apart. Explosions rippled across its surface as its power systems failed. "They're all gone," Frank whispered. "All the minds on that ship. Just gone." No one spoke for a moment. Even though the Arcturus had been their enemies, there was something sobering about witnessing so many deaths at once. The silence was broken by an urgent beeping from the ship's controls. "We've got incoming," Donna shouted. "Two smaller Arcturus vessels on an intercept course." "They know it was us," Frank said. "They felt their leaders die and traced it back to our ship." Greg moved to the weapons console. "Do we have anything to fight with?" "This is a research vessel, not a warship," Donna replied. "We have minimal shields but no weapons." Kate looked out the window at the approaching alien ships. They were smaller than the mothership but still much larger than their own craft. "Can we outrun them?" "Not a chance," Donna said. "They're faster and more maneuverable." Frank stood up suddenly. "I have an idea." He moved to the back of the ship where they had stored extra samples of the Phoenix virus. "If we can release this into space near their ships and they pass through it, their air intakes might pull it in," Kate finished, understanding his plan. "But how do we get it out there?" "The waste disposal system," Eric suggested. "We can modify it to eject the samples." The team worked quickly. Sam and Kate prepared the virus samples while Eric and Lily modified the ship's waste disposal system. Greg and Frank watched the approaching Arcturus ships, which were now close enough to see clearly through the windows. "Ready," Kate called. "Releasing virus now." The ship shuddered slightly as the modified system ejected the Phoenix virus samples into space. The tiny particles were invisible, floating in a cloud behind their ship. "Now we just need them to fly." "Through it," Greg said. Donna made a sharp turn, causing everyone to grab onto something for support. "I'll try to lead them through the cloud." The small ship turned and twisted, staying just ahead of the pursuing alien vessels. The first Arcturus ship flew through the area where they had released the virus. For long seconds, nothing happened. The alien ship continued its pursuit. "It didn't work," Lily said, her voice filled with disappointment. Then suddenly, the alien ship began to slow. Its movement became less coordinated. It drifted to one side, no longer following a direct course. "It worked," Kate exclaimed. "Their systems must have pulled in the virus." The second Arcturus ship, seeing what happened to the first, tried to change course, but it was too late. It also passed through the invisible cloud of viral particles. Soon both alien ships were drifting harmlessly, their crews too sick to control them. Donna set a course back to Earth, pushing their engines to full speed. "We're not safe yet. There are still more Arcturus ships out there." As they approached Earth, they could see flashes of light in the atmosphere. The remaining alien ships were engaged in battle with Earth's defense forces. "The Phoenix formula," Kate said urgently. "Did our transmission get through? Are they using it?" Greg checked the communications. "Yes. Military bases around the world received our data. They're using modified missiles to deliver the virus to the attacking ships." The team watched as several Arcturus vessels suddenly stopped attacking and began to drift. The Phoenix virus was working on a global scale. Their small ship entered Earth's atmosphere, the hull heating up and glowing as they descended. Donna expertly guided them toward the North American continent. "We're being hailed by air defense," she said. "They want to know who we are." Greg took over the communications. "This is Commander Patterson with Dr. Murphy's team. Mission successful. Request immediate landing clearance and medical quarantine protocols." They were directed to land at a military base in Colorado. As they broke through the cloud layer, they could see fighter jets escorting them down. On the ground, emergency vehicles and troops were waiting. The ship landed with a bump. Through the windows, they could see people in hazmat suits approaching. "Do they think we're infected?" Eric asked. "They're being careful," Kate explained. "They don't know what else we might have brought back with us." As the team prepared to exit their ship, Frank looked at Kate. "What happens now? To us, I mean. We're still changed." Kate didn't have a simple answer. "I don't know, but I think humanity is going to need people like you. People who understand the Arcturus and their technology. This might be the end of their invasion, but it's just the beginning for us. The door of their ship opened and bright sunlight streamed in. After the darkness of space and the blue-lit halls of the alien vessel, Earth's natural light felt incredibly warm and welcoming. One by one, the team stepped out onto their home planet, heroes returning from a mission that had saved humanity from extinction. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they had won this day. And high above them, the remaining Arcturus ships were either dead in space or fleeing Earth's orbit, carrying with them the knowledge that humans were not the easy prey they had thought. The enemy unleashed a virus to kill us, but we transformed it into a cure. 1 year had passed since the day humanity defeated the Arcturus. The world had changed in ways no one could have imagined before the aliens came. Kate Murphy stood at the window of her new laboratory. It was much bigger than her old one, built with technology partly based on what they had learned from the alien ships. Outside, the city looked both familiar and strange. New buildings made with materials inspired by Arcturus designs rose among the old ones. Greg entered the lab carrying 2 cups of coffee. He handed one to Kate with a smile. "Hard to believe it's been a year already," he said. Kate nodded. "Sometimes it feels like it just happened yesterday. Other times it feels like a different lifetime." They both looked at the large screen on the wall showing the latest data about the survivors. Not just the original team who had gone to the alien ship, but all those who had contracted the virus and lived. Their numbers had grown from hundreds to thousands as doctors had learned to help more people survive the transformation. "How is Frank doing with the new group?" Kate asked. "He's a good teacher," Greg replied. "He understands what they're going through better than anyone else could." Frank had become the leader of the changed humans, helping them understand their new abilities and how to use them. Some could sense technology in new ways. Others had enhanced memory or physical abilities. All had immune systems stronger than normal humans. And the Phoenix treatment program? Greg smiled. Over 10,000 patients treated successfully last month alone. The modified virus is curing diseases we never thought we could beat. The Phoenix treatment was perhaps the greatest discovery to come from the alien attack. Scientists had taken the virus that was meant to destroy humanity and changed it further. Now it could be used to cure many human diseases. Cancer, heart disease, even some brain disorders were now treatable. The virus that was supposed to end human life had instead extended it. "The president is coming to visit the new space center next week," Greg said. "They want you to be there for the ceremony." Kate nodded. The space center was another result of their victory. Using technology from the fallen Arcturus ships, humans had made huge leaps in space travel. There was already a permanent base on the moon and plans for Mars were moving forward quickly. "I'll be there," she said. "Is Lily coming back from the moon station for it?" "Yes, she's scheduled to return in 3 days." Lily had been one of the first to volunteer for the moon base. Her experience with the aliens had given her unique insights into how their propulsion systems worked. Kate walked over to another section of her lab where Sam was working. He was studying a piece of metal from one of the Arcturus ships. "Any progress?" she asked. Sam looked up from his microscope. "It's amazing. Their materials can actually heal themselves when damaged. If we can figure out how to reproduce this, we could build structures that repair themselves." Later that day, Kate visited the rehabilitation center where many of the changed humans lived and trained. The building had once been a university campus but was now dedicated to helping those affected by the alien virus. Frank met her at the entrance. His appearance had changed slightly over the past year. His eyes had a faint blue glow to them now, especially in dim light. It was one of the side effects of the transformation. "Kate!" "Good to see you," he greeted her warmly. "Come to check on your test subjects?" She smiled at his joke. "You know you're not test subjects. You're more like pioneers." Frank led her through the facility. In one room, children who had survived the virus were learning to control their enhanced abilities. A young girl was assembling a complex electronic device without any instructions. In another room, adults were practicing a new form of communication that used subtle electrical signals, something they had learned from studying Arcturus bodies. "How are things with the government?" Frank asked as they walked. Kate sighed. "Complicated. Some officials are worried about the long-term effects of having a portion of the population with enhanced abilities. Others see you as the next step in human evolution." "And what do you think?" Kate stopped walking and looked at him directly. "I think you're still human. Different, yes, but still human. And I think we need you if we're going to be ready." "Ready for what?" "The Arcturus might be gone, but there could be others out there. Next time, we should be the ones who are prepared." Frank nodded. "That's why we're working so hard on understanding their technology. The ships we've managed to capture intact have given us decades of advanced science." They continued their tour, stopping at the medical wing where Eric was helping new survivors adjust to their changed bodies. "The transformation is getting easier to manage," Eric told Kate. "With the right care, the survival rate is now up to 15%. Much better than the 2% we started with," Kate said, "but still too low." That evening, Kate joined a video conference with scientists from around the world. They shared their latest findings on Arcturus technology and the continuing effects of the Phoenix virus treatment program. A doctor from Japan reported success in using the virus to cure a previously untreatable form of brain disease. A scientist from Brazil showed how they had adapted alien energy technology to provide clean power to remote villages. After the meeting, Kate stood on the balcony of her apartment, looking at the stars. Somewhere out there, the remaining Arcturus were likely planning their next move, but humanity would be ready. The doorbell rang. Kate opened it to find Greg, Frank, Sam, and Lily, who had returned early from the moon base. "Surprise," Lily said with a grin. "We thought we should celebrate." "Celebrate? What?" Kate asked. "1 year of survival," Greg said, holding up a bottle of champagne. 1 year of proving that humans can face the worst and come out stronger. They gathered in Kate's living room, this unlikely group of friends brought together by an alien invasion. "You ever wonder if the Arcturus knew what they were starting?" Frank asked as they sat together. "When they created that virus, did they have any idea it would end up making us stronger?" "That's the thing about trying to destroy something you don't fully understand," Kate replied. "Life adapts, especially human life." "To adaptation," Sam said, raising his glass. "And to whatever comes next," Lily added. They touched their glasses together as the night sky outside filled with stars. The same stars that had brought an enemy to Earth now represented humanity's future. A future that had almost been destroyed, but was now filled with more promise than ever before. The enemy had unleashed a virus to kill them. But humans had transformed it into a cure, not just for disease, but for the limitations that had held them back for so long. As Kate looked at her friends, she knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, humanity would face them together, stronger and more united than ever before. That was the real victory they had won.